Learn who I could have been neighbors with if I was born in the early 1900s. Today on Licensure Lifeline. Welcome to the show. This is your host, Matt Lawson, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking Carl Rogers and humanistic psychology. As noted in the last show, I'm going to try a little bit of a different format today. Instead of just presenting a topic or an idea, I'm actually going to start with a case study and weave the information about Carl Rogers and humanistic psychology into the kind of the case study and understanding the case study, or how this might be something that would be used within the case study. I hope for a couple of things here. I hope that it makes the show better. I hope it gives you a little bit more information. It also is going to allow me to touch a little bit on both the NCM HCE and the NCE that a lot of us need to take. So I'm hoping that it's gonna kind of kill two birds with one stone type thing. Also, before I start the show, I want to remind everyone that we do have an Instagram page now that I am posting flashcards on and study tips. I'm hoping that can be just another resource for you to get some good information. So let's look at the case study. Jane is a 34-year-old graphic designer. She comes into your office, reports feelings a lack of fulfillment in her job and personal life. She expresses a desire for a more meaningful and satisfying career and a personal relationship, but feels stuck and unsure of how to make changes. This is a person type that I see a lot in my office, in my practice. Not necessarily coming to me with like just debilitating depression or anxiety or broken, as somebody might kind of think that's what you need therapy for, to fix people that are broken. But somebody that's just kind of feeling off in their lives, like they have things going on that, they seemingly should be fine. But for whatever reason, it's just not scratching that itch, maybe anymore or ever a lot of the times. And then, they just want some time, some space to explore like what's going on here and see if they can just improve upon a situation that they think they can do better in. A little history on Jane. She has a stable job, no significant past medical or psychological history, including not much in her family history of psychological or medical issues. She's generally a healthy person, works out multiple times a week, stays pretty active, eats fairly healthy. She has a small circle of friends, goes out on a couple of times a weekly basis, dates occasionally, uses dating apps, has not been in a long-term relationship, however, in over 3 years. And this is an area that she really wants to look into. An overview of what this case might look like would be Jane visits on a weekly basis and explores her feelings of dissatisfaction in her life in general. She mentions feeling disconnected from her work and really desires a career that aligns more with her personal values and interests. Maybe she got into graphic design because she's a creative, but came to find out that it's a lot more kind of cut and dry and corporate, and she doesn't have much autonomy on her creativity as she would like. She's kind of stuck maybe making brochures all the time, and she really wants to be doing like original pieces or really just stretching her creative thoughts. So using the humanistic approach, I would focus on understanding Jane's experiences from her perspective and help her to explore her own feelings and thoughts without judgment. Humanistic psychology is the baby of Carl Rogers. He was born in 1902 in Oak Park, Illinois, which, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the show, when I was born and adopted, we lived in Oak Park, Illinois. So if I was born in the early 1900s, it could have been neighbors with Carl Rogers. He initially enrolled in seminary before shifting his studies to psychology, and this approach to therapy, known as client-centered approach, humanistic um, psychology, client-centered, connected. which emerged in the 1940s as a response to the dominant psychoanalytical and behaviorist paradigms. One of the things that I think is really interesting with humanistic slash client centered, person centered psychology is this approach isn't necessarily something like CBT, where you're almost given a formula to working with somebody. Um, it's there's certain like steps and strategies and things like that that you can take within the CBT model that you kind of work with somebody on uh, as they come to your office on a regular basis. Um, with client-centered therapy, it's almost as if it's more of a way of being with the person. So this approach is very much so based in experiences and observations in clinical settings, which led Rogers to believe that a supportive, non judgmental therapeutic environment was more effective than a directive method. And so he really emphasized the importance of the therapist's attitude and the quality of the client therapist relationship over the therapist techniques. So this really emphasizes relationship more in therapy and just the way you are with your client. So you're going to see things emphasized here like congruence, which is a genuine and authentic way of being with your client, not hiding behind a professional or personal facade. So up to this point, it was like people like Freud put themselves out there, people in the psychoanalytical world would put themselves out there as, hey, I'm the expert. You're coming to me to figure out what's wrong and I'm going to fix it. Right. This is very Western medicine-y. This is how, doctors were treated back then, or still now, is you would go to a doctor, they're the authority, and they would fix what was ailing you. And Rogers took a step back and he said, this is more about just trying to fix people. This is really about seeing that person in front of you and just being genuine and authentic with them and not like be this unattainable individual that is just looming over them. So you had congruence as one of the key concepts in person-centered humanistic therapy. Unconditional positive regard. This is another one of my really favorite sentiments in this therapeutic approach. But the therapist just accepts the person for who they are in a completely non-judgmental way, which if you can attain that, it is extremely freeing to just whoever comes at you, whoever you see, you're able to just take all judgment and just pull it out of your head. Everybody always has some judgment, but it is something that we need to check. And when you can do that in the therapeutic experience, when you can say, hey, I'm not, I'm not on this side or the other. I'm just seeing you for who you are and working with you for what you present. It is extremely freeing for both you and the person you're working with. And then empathetic understanding. Therapists should strive to deeply understand the client's experience and feelings, seeing the world from the client's point of view. Now let's go back to Jane with the application of this. So empathetically understanding Jane, you're really like looking to understand her emotions and convey that understanding back to her. So she understands that this is a safe and supportive environment. You want to express that congruence of being genuine and transparent as a counselor. With this therapeutic approach, things like sharing a little bit about yourself isn't necessarily a horrible thing. A lot of the times you might hear therapists that are just like, yeah, keep that wall up around yourself, your personal experience. But with this approach, that personal experience can be something that you really can really help you connect with the person that you're working with. And then the unconditional positive regard with Jane, accept her without judgment, provide her a supportive and non-critical environment for her to explore her thoughts and feelings. Let's break this case down a bit more as if we were looking at it on the NCMHCE. So important factors that you might want to consider here are the client's goals. Being able to identify and clarify Jane's goals for counseling, career satisfaction, improved relationships are one of the areas that you kind of want to pick out and pull aside. Her emotional state, monitoring Jane's emotional responses to discussions about change and her satisfaction in life. her values and beliefs. That's one of the things that I do a lot of the times initially with people is just really going over like what their values, what their beliefs are in the world, what they use to navigate their lives. But being able to understand this can really see how they influence her sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. Potential interventions that you might look at for Jane here um, would be values clarification, an exercise that really helps Jane identify and articulate her values and how they align with her current lifestyle and career. Goal setting, develop realistic, achievable goals that'll better align with what Jane values and desires. And then the exploration of options, facilitating discussion around possible career changes or advancements that better align again with those values that she has. Assessment tools for this, life satisfaction scale, and maybe some career assessment tools might be really helpful in this situation. Okay, so that's Jane in a nutshell. Let's go over some questions that you might see about Carl Rogers and person-centered approach, humanistic psychology on a NCE. First off, what is the primary goal of Carl Rogers person-centered therapy? Would it be A, to to correct irrational thinking, B, to understand the client's unconscious motivations, C, to facilitate client self awareness and self acceptance, or D, to modify dysfunctional behavior? The answer to this one is going to be C. Person centered therapy focuses on facilitating an environment where clients can come to find their own solutions to their problems through increased self awareness and self acceptance. Number 2, which of the following is not a core condition of Carl Rogers' therapeutic approach? Is it A, unconditional positive regard, B, congruence, C, empathic understanding, or D, directive advice? The correct answer here is D. Directive advice is not part of Carl Rogers' approach, which emphasizes non directiveness, allowing the clients to lead the direction of the therapy session. How about a mnemonic device for you to help you remember some of this information? CUE, to remember the three core conditions of the client-centered approach. The C stands for congruence, the U stands for unconditional positive regard, and the E stands for empathic understanding. Okay, that is going to be it for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you like this new format. I think I'm going to try to develop this more. Unless you absolutely hate it, always looking for feedback. Please don't hesitate to reach out through the whatever um, service you're listening to this podcast through and let me know. But until next time, keep studying.